Hello, my name is Yusuf Al-Qaidi. I'm a professor of English at the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, SAIS FES, University Sidi Mohammed bin Abdullah FES. This audio is for Business Communication class, Semester 2. And in this audio, I'm going to talk about writing direct claims and complaints. I repeat, writing direct claims and complaints. Now, before I start, let's have an idea about the outline. First, I'm going to define what I mean by direct claims and complaints. Then, I will talk about the writing plan for a direct claim. And when I say the writing plan, I mean the opening, the body, and the closing. How do we write the opening? What should we do in the opening? How do we proceed with the body? And finally, how do we end a direct claim? Then, I'll read you two examples of direct claims. The first one is poorly written and needs to be improved, and the second one is well written. So we are going to compare between the two and see the things that we should avoid while writing a direct claim and the things that we should do. This is like the first part of my outline. The second part will be on writing adjustment letters. I will first define what I mean by adjustment letters, and by the way, adjustment letters are the letters written by companies in response to the claims of their clients and customers, usually to correct the wrong done to them. I will also talk about the writing plan for an adjustment letter, the subject line, the opening, the body, and the closing. And finally, I'll read you an example of a well-written adjustment claim so that we can pinpoint the things that make a good adjustment letter. Now let's get started. Problems in businesses and companies can happen on a daily basis. In fact, they are part and parcel of the daily operations they do. There are a lot of problems that can happen in businesses. Probably we hear of some common ones, like for example, shipments are late. You buy an item, they promise you a certain date to deliver the item, but then it arrives very late, maybe a week later than the date promised, or a month, or whatever kind of late date. This is called late delivery. Warranted goods fail. You buy an item with a warranty, but it fails before the warranty, or before the deadline in the warranty. Service is disappointing, and this is due to sometimes cruel stuff or unfriendly stuff. It happens to every one of us sometimes. You don't feel comfortable dealing with a company simply because of a member or a staff member who is not friendly and who is not effective in communicating with the customers. Sometimes you may buy an item and then when you receive it, you find that it is faulty. You find that, for example, the item is broken or scratched or doesn't work properly. Like if you buy a phone and then when you receive it, you find that the screen is scratched. This is called a faulty item, and this is something that happens a lot. Now, when you as a customer must write to identify or correct a wrong, the message is called a claim. Some people also call it a complaint or a complaint letter. Claims that require persuasion are called indirect claims, and that's not our concern in today's audio. In today's audio, the focus is on direct claims and complaints. Consumers usually resort to telephone calls or to emails. To complain about the problems that we've mentioned, most people today, they just write an email or pick a phone and give a phone call to the company or to the customer service manager. Now, what do you think is the most effective way to complain? Is it by telephone calls and emails or by sending formal letters? Okay, what do you think? I personally think that letters are more effective for many reasons or for several reasons. Letters are more convincing, okay? And they establish a record of what happened. They also command more attention than telephone calls and emails. They also convey a high degree of seriousness. When the recipient receives your letter, he or she will understand that the matter is serious, and so they will give it their utmost attention. Of course, there are disadvantages when it comes to letters, especially the fact that they are slow to deliver. Okay, a letter usually takes some time to arrive compared to an email or a phone call, but we can manage this problem by just scanning the letter and faxing it, or simply scanning the letter and attaching it to the email we are sending. Now, in this way, we can preserve the effects of a letter and achieve the instantaneous delivery. Okay, and here we would hit two birds with one stone. As far as the writing plan is concerned, we have basically three parts that we are going to talk about here. Of course, I'm not going to mention the other parts which are very, very necessary and you can do without them, like the return address at the top of the letter, the date line, the inside address, and the salutation. Now, those parts are compulsory. I'm going to focus basically on the opening, the body, and the closing. What should we do in each of these parts? In the opening, you should describe clearly the desired action. In the body, we explain the claim, tell why it is justified, and provide details describing the desired action. And in the closing, you need to end pleasantly with a goodwill statement and include an end date and action requests if appropriate. Now, I'm going to talk in details about these three parts. Now, let's start with the opening. Usually, when consumers have a legitimate claim or complaint, they can expect a positive response from a company. If you support your claim with evidence, then the company will have no other choice but to respond positively to your claim. But of course, provided that your claim should be supported, rational, reasonable, and well written. And when I say well written, the language should be polite and courteous. Your tone shouldn't vent anger, um, and many other considerations that we are going to see when we read the examples later on in this audio. Smart businesses want to hear from their customers. They know that retaining a customer is far less costly than recruiting a new one. Now, how to open your claim? Open a claim with a clear statement of the problem or with the action you want the receiver to take. You might expect a replacement. For example, you ordered an item, but when you received it, you felt that it is not appropriate or that it is not proper, it doesn't work properly. So probably you may ask for a replacement. So if this is your action, if this is the action you request, please make it very clear in the opening. You may ask for a refund, okay? You want your money back. You change your mind and you want to have your money back. So you can ask for a refund, but please say it from the beginning. That's why we call it direct claim, because we state the action requested from the beginning, in the opening. You may also ask to change the order, a new order, okay? Or a correction of a bill and error. There is an error in the bill. You may ask for free repairs, or probably you may ask for the cancellation of the order altogether. So whatever you are asking or whatever action you are requesting, it should be stated at the very beginning in your opening, okay? Now, what about the body? In the body, we justify the claim. We explain and justify the claim. Explain the problem and justify your requests, of course. Provide all relevant details so that the problem can be corrected without further correspondence. If you don't provide enough details, probably will create misunderstanding and then expect the company or its representative to call you or send you a letter asking for more clarifications. And if they do, then things will take long and the positive response you desire would be delayed. So you'd better explain in details and make things clear in your first claim message. Avoid becoming angry or trying to fix blame. Of course, when you write a complaint, you are dissatisfied, okay? You are not happy with what happened, especially if it is the responsibility of the company you are dealing with. But even if you are unhappy, you shouldn't express your unhappiness or dissatisfaction in a way that is impolite or in a way that shows an angry tone. Okay? Please try to maintain that courteous tone even in cases when you are unhappy or dissatisfied. Bear in mind that the person reading your message is seldom the one responsible for the problem. So instead, state the facts logically, objectively, and unemotionally. Now, these three adverbs are very important. Logically, not um, irrationally. Objectively, not subjectively. Unemotionally, not emotionally. One of the basic characteristics of business writing is trying to avoid emotional language. Of course, that's acceptable if you are writing a short story or probably a poem or any other piece of creative writing. In business writing, we should do away with emotional language, okay? State the hard facts supported with evidence. When sending a letter by postal mail, enclose copies of all pertinent documents such as invoices, sales slips, catalog descriptions, and repair records. Of course, those receipts and other documents can also be scanned and attached to an email if you are sending an email. When you use a paper mail, do not send your originals, which could be lost, okay? Try, maybe you can photocopy them and legalize them and then send the legalized copies instead of sending the originals. The risk of losing them is always there, so be wary about that. When service is involved, cite the names of individuals you spoke to and the dates of calls. If you are complaining about a service, for example, you were maltreated by an agent or a staff member, or you were verbally abused by someone in the company, then you need to state the names of those who are accountable for that, okay? Assume that a company honestly wants to satisfy its customers, because most do. Alright, now that's for the body. Now, what about the concluding part? In the concluding part, or in the conclusion, we ask for a specific action. We request a certain action to be taken, okay? End your message with a courteous statement that promotes goodwill and summarizes your action request. If appropriate, include an end date. Let me give you an example. I hope you understand that mistakes in ordering online sometimes occur. Because I have enjoyed your prompt service in the past, I hope that you will be able to issue a refund or store credit by May the 2nd. Now, here, as you may have noticed, the language is very courteous and there is a very clear call for action, which is um, issuing a refund or store credit by May the 2nd, by a certain very specific deadline. Finally, in making claims, act promptly. For example, you received a faulty item or got an erroneous bill to pay. Don't wait until, like, for example, 7 days after that to react and write a claim. No, you need to write immediately and promptly, because delaying claims makes them appear less important. Delayed claims are also more difficult to verify. A written claim starts a record of the problem should later action be necessary. Save a copy of your message, whether paper or electronic. Of course, you need to save a copy of your message to serve as a record for later correspondence or for later needs. Okay, so now we go to the part where I'm going to read you two examples of direct claims. The first one is poorly written and needs to be improved, and the second one is well written. Of course, both of them are emails written by someone who received an erroneous bill from a company. This is a person who was charged an extra sum of money for a service that he didn't buy. So now he's writing these two emails to complain about this. However, the difference between the two emails is very noticeable. The first one is badly written, but the second one is very well written. The company's name is Good Vibes. He's writing to Good Vibes. Now look how he's going to start his first email. In the subject line, he wrote Bad Vibes. It seems that the person here started the attack from the very beginning, from the subject line, Bad Vibes. Instead of Good Vibes, which is the name of the company, he said or he wrote Bad Vibes. Dear Good Vibes, you call yourselves Good Vibes, but all I'm getting from your service is bad vibes. I'm furious that we have your salespeople slip in unwanted service warranties to boost your sales. When I bought my Pantronic DVR from Good Vibes in August, I specifically told the salesperson that I did not want a 3-year service warranty. But there it is on my Visa statement this month. You people have obviously billed me for a service I did not authorize. I refuse to pay this charge. How can you hope to stay in business with such fraudulent practices? I was expecting to return this month and look at HD TVs, but you can be sure I'll find an honest dealer this time. Angrily. Alright, so as you see, the email here is not well written. It doesn't meet the standards of business communication. And one of these standards is using courteous language, okay? So the person or the writer uses meaningless subject line, bad vibes. And in the opening of his email, he sounds angry and he jumps to conclusions and value judgments. In the body, he forgets that mistakes happen. Mistakes happen in business, of course, and sometimes they are unintentional. I mean, they don't intend to cause the problem. So we need to deal with such problems that happen and occur with rational and polite way to fix things and to put things on the good track again. In the third paragraph, he fails to suggest a solution. He doesn't ask for any corrective measure. He doesn't ask for any action to be taken. And of course, in the complimentary clause, he finishes with angrily, not sincerely yours, or yours sincerely, or yours truly. So it is angrily. And we said that we shouldn't use such kind of writing. When we write, we are not writing to vent anger, but to fix things. Now let's read the second email, which is well written, and see what makes it different from the first one. Subject line, requesting refund for erroneous charge. Dear Miss Bourne, please credit my Visa account ending in number 9421 to correct an erroneous charge of $299. On August the 1st, I purchased a Pantronic DVR from Good Vibes. Although the salesperson discussed a 3-year extended warranty with me, I decided against purchasing that service for $299. However, when my credit card statement arrived this month, I noticed an extra $299 charge from Good Vibes. I suspect that this charge represents the warranty I declined. Enclosed is a scanned copy of my sales invoice along with my Visa statement showing the charge. Please authorize a credit immediately and email me a confirmation of the transaction. I'm enjoying all the features of my Pantronic DVR and would like to be shopping at Good Vibes for an HD TV shortly. Sincerely, Duncan Rabi. So as you see, the email is very much different than the first one. This email is completely different than the one we read. First, the writer provides an informative subject line which summarizes the purpose of the email. Um, in the opening, he states simply and clearly what to do, okay? He requests a very specific action. Then he explains objectively what went wrong. He doesn't blame or accuse. When you read his email, you don't find any blame or accusation. He also uses friendly tone. That kind of friendliness is maintained from the beginning till the end of his email. And also, he documents facts. When I say he documents facts, I mean that he supports his claim with specific and concrete evidence, especially when he says, enclosed is a scanned copy of my sales invoice along with my Visa statement showing the charge. And at the end, in the concluding paragraph, he summarizes the request and courteously suggests continued business once the problem is resolved. So, as you see, the email is very well written and it highly meets the standards of business communication. Now we come to the last part of my audio, which is adjustment messages. Now, when a company receives a claim and decides to respond favorably, the message is called an adjustment. Most businesses make adjustments promptly and immediately without any delay. They replace merchandise, they refund money to the customers, they extend discounts and send coupons, and sometimes repair goods. In fact, social media have shortened the response time drastically to mere hours, not days. Businesses grant adjustments to legitimate claims for two reasons. First, contract and tort law protects consumers for recovery of damages. If, for example, you find an insect in a package of frozen peas, the food processor of that package is bound by contractual law to replace it. If you suffer injury, the processor may be liable for damages. Second, most organizations genuinely want to satisfy their customers and retain their business. In responding to customer claims, you must first decide whether to grant the claim or not. Unless the claim is obviously fraudulent or excessive, you will probably grant it. When you say yes, your adjustment message will be good news to the reader, and that's why you need to state it immediately in the beginning of your adjustment letter. And here you use what we call the direct approach. We are going to see with writing good news, bad news messages the difference between direct strategy and indirect strategy. When we have good news, the direct strategy is recommended. You need to state the good news immediately. And when you have bad news, you'd better keep it until a later time in your letter. Okay, you don't state it immediately. When your response is no, the indirect pattern might be more appropriate. You have three goals in adjustment messages. When you write an adjustment message to a customer, basically there are three goals that we want to achieve. The first one is to rectify the wrong, if it exists, of course. The second one is to regain the confidence of the customer. Without that confidence, without regaining the confidence of the customer, the company may lose its customers with time. And the third one is promoting further business. Of course, promoting further business with customers. A positive adjustment message follows the direct strategy. So the writing plan for this direct strategy is like this. We start with the subject line, which is, of course, it is optional, but if you prefer to use it, identify the previous correspondence and refer to the main topic, as we are going to see with the example that I'm going to read later on in this audio. Then the opening, and in the opening, you grant the request or announce the adjustment immediately. Of course, an adjustment is good news. It is a positive response to the customer, so that should be announced immediately. In the body, you provide details about how you are complying with the request. Try to regain the customer's confidence. Apologize if appropriate, but don't admit negligence, because if you admit negligence, this can subject you to a lawsuit, or maybe this can give a pretext to the customer to issue a lawsuit against you. So apology is good and it is acceptable, and um, it does no harm, but admitting negligence can sometimes um, cost you a lot. In the closing, end positively with a forward-looking thought. Express confidence about future business relations. Include a sales promotion if appropriate. But remember, please, to avoid referring to unpleasantness. Keep that sense of politeness and courtesy up until the end of your message. Now let's read an example of a well-written adjustment letter. Of course, we have the letterhead. We have May the 20th, 2016 as the date. And of course, we have the inside address, then the salutation, Dear Mr. Lopez. The subject line, your May the 15th letter about your purchase order. So as you see, the subject line is brief and it does really summarize the topic, and it refers to the previous correspondence. Your May the 15th letter about your purchase order. Your second shipment of the Blue Players video game consoles and other electronics that you ordered April the 16th is on its way and should arrive on May the 27th. The first shipment of this order was delivered May the 1st to 45 Estate Street, Trenton 08611. When no one at that address would accept the shipment, it was returned to us. Now that I have your letter, I see that the order should have been sent to 1517 Hamilton Avenue, Trenton, NJ 08603. When an order is undeliverable, we usually try to verify the shipping address by telephoning the customer. Somehow, the return of this shipment was not caught by our normally painstaking shipping clerks. You can be sure that I will investigate shipping and return procedures with our clerks immediately to see if we can improve existing methods. Your respect is important to us, Mr. Lopez. Although our rock bottom discount prices have enabled us to build a volume business, we don't want to be so large that we lose touch with valued customers like you. Over the years, our customers' respect has made us successful, and we hope that the prompt delivery of this shipment will retain yours. Sincerely, Kimberly Lou, Distribution Manager. Now, as you see, this is a very well written adjustment simply because it meets the standards of business communication. Okay? Now, first, the writer of this letter, who is the distribution manager of the company, addresses the recipient by name, Dear Mr. Lopez. And when we address people by name, it is much better than addressing them using Dear Sir or Madam. We get a good impression when we are addressed by name. Then he announces good news immediately. Your second shipment of the Blu-ray players, video game consoles, and other electronics that you ordered April the 16th is on its way and should arrive on May the 27th. In the body, he tries to regain the confidence of customer by explaining what happened and by suggesting plans for improvement. And finally, in the conclusion, he closes confidently with genuine appeal for the customer's respect, especially when he says, your respect is important to us, Mr. Lopez. So as you see, this is a very formal adjustment letter in which all the standards of business communication and business writing are respected. I encourage everyone to do much practice because, as I say all the time, practice makes perfect, and without practice, you may not be able to internalize the do's and the don'ts of business writing. That's it for today's audio. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.